On tonight's agenda, we have several items. We have flooding issues, concerns, cable commission updates is the second agenda item. Third agenda item is update on review of 180 acres that the city received via the 3M settlement. And so the first up is flooding. The city council and maybe some of you property owners have had some concerns of rising waters last year and this winter. So the council thought it'd be a good idea to have some discussion on it. Christina, can you take over, please?
Mayor and council, just by a brief background here, we wanted to share with you kind of what we've done and what we've got in place thus far for the 2020 springs. As we all probably remember, last spring was a very difficult time as it relates to flooding. We had a number of some roads that were backed up and a lot of private property that had been impacted. Last summer, I had met with the Valley Branch Watershed District engineer, and he had compiled a list of areas in Lake Elmo where we had heard complaints from, and we went over a number of those maps, and I've included them in your packet to see what could be done about the flooding issues in those areas. And in most cases, it was really that there was nothing within the public realm that could be done. It was homes that had been built many years ago, or built in a bowl, or built too close to some water bodies. We did identify some areas where we know culverts tend to back up, such as along Jamaica and 50th Street and other areas, and that's been communicated to Public Works so that they know come this spring that they pay special attention to those areas to try and keep that flowing. But really, a lot of the areas that we looked at, the solutions, if there were any, would likely just be berming on private property that those property owners could do. And due to liability concerns, the city's position in the past has always been that we will not go on to private property to address any flooding issues. We focus on our public infrastructure, like the roadways and the ditches and culverts, like I mentioned, to make sure that they're open. In addition, we did this a little bit last spring, and we've been in communications with the Washington County Emergency Management Director in preparation for our 2020 floods. We've already ordered some sandbags out at Public Works, and we've let them know that when the time is right, we'll be contacting them for sand and having that available for folks who need to come and pick it up out at Public Works, much like we did last spring. So we've got that planned. Like I said, 2,000 sandbags already ordered. We don't want to get the sand too early, because if it sits out there and gets contaminated or freezes, it's not really much use. But we will be ready to get that. Also in your packet, there was some information that the Washington County Emergency Management Director had sent out regarding the most recent flooding situation from the National Weather Service. We've also been trying to communicate with folks via our printed biannual newsletter, The Source, that went out this winter, as well as our weekly fresh updates where they can get information on flood insurance. The important thing for folks to know there is that it does take 30 days before that goes into effect. So people should be thinking about it this time of year and contacting their insurance agents to see what kind of coverage is available for them. It's not something you want to wait and see if you have an issue with. The Watershed District has been doing some more work, as I had sent out to you today, some modeling work as far as where the flooding impacts could be. Also been in communications with the state agencies to see if there's any outletting that could be done. A lot of the flooding areas in Lake Elmo are because we're in a landlocked basin. So that's kind of the update about where we're at, and we're happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
All right. Council, do you have some questions? I've got one. We we had some discussions via Cimarron or over Cimarron, and their Rose Lake and all that, and I haven't been in contact with the management of Cimarron, and I know John is in the audience from Valley Branch. Do we have some?
We had some calls with them last fall or shortly after we had first talked about it. And at that point, we had talked with the management there, and at that point, they were just gathering information about their options. They hadn't made a decision. We've had communications with them, letting them know if they're going to need sandbags, how many they might need. Also looking at the possibility of drying down the lake and, contacting the DNR to get those appropriate permits. So to my knowledge, they haven't made a decision. They were just trying to gather the information ahead of time about their options.
Okay. Go ahead, Lisa.
I understand the issue of the city going on to private properties, and I've been contacted by some residents who are concerned because of their age or feel they don't have the resources to help with sandbagging, et cetera, on their private properties. Are we going to be able to get information out? And, oftentimes in the past, what I've seen is if you make that announcement that we need people out here to help, individuals with sandbagging, that type of thing, that we usually get volunteers in force to help with that. So I'd like to see what we can do to get that information out to people so that if in fact we do have an issue, I don't know, I think it's going to depend on how much snow and, that we get from here on out. But maybe the city could help with that portion of it, whether we put it in the fresh or make some announcement. The news stations have put it out, that people are looking for some help with that type of thing. So I'm hoping we can do some type of program or something to help in that respect.
Yeah, if it gets bad enough, I know we had these discussions with Washington County, and Community Thread, I think, had offered, if I'm remembering the group right, had offered help down in Stillwater and stuff. So they've got some contacts set up like that. We never got that overwhelming request last year. We were able to do a few with Public Works. I know I think the mayor was out there doing some himself, and then people doing it on their own. But we can kind of monitor the situation if it rises to that level. We didn't get there last year, so.
Thank you.
Speaking of last year, how much sand did we go through? Did we go through just a few yards of it? I mean, we didn't use that pile even. I know 38th and 39th, I remember there's some people in there that were having issues, but I don't think we went through more in a truck.
I don't know if you know.
When I
there you
started,
are.
there was one pile there.
Yeah.
It was a 10-yard pile, I would guess, and we used maybe 2-3 yards out of it at most.
Okay.
If there was prior piles, I don't know.
I don't think there was, so, okay.
So we didn't use too much.
Thanks. Councilman Valera.
For Mr. Hanson, are you doing any drawdowns this year?
Yeah.
Mayor, Council, the drawdown occurs if the water content of the snowpack is 4 inches or greater. I just checked yesterday, and the water content is about 2.5 inches.
Okay.
So for those listening, basically you said not planning on it now, snowpack, you need 4 inches of snow, 4 inches of moisture snowpack, and it's 2.5 right now. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Anything else on this? Well, I think it's important we at least have the discussion, to your point, Lisa, and, if the need calls for volunteers, there's some
Mechanism.
pre-mention of it, or maybe it's more digestible if it happens. Hopefully it won't. But there's several. Well, Councilmember McGinn, you also pointed out that you've had several calls from people. I certainly have had. There's a couple of people that could be in this predicament. A couple of them that are in the predicament as we speak. One gentleman, I don't know that he can access his house via his driveway right now. So I think what we're hearing is we'll have sand available, and they're confident that there will be a supply of sand if in the event everybody's calling for it. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Sandbags, go ahead.
Do we have an update on that situation? As far as do we have any idea what happened?
I don't know what situation.
I'm sorry,
you're
there's the driveway that needed to be.
I believe the last I'd heard, the homeowners association was not willing to give him a permanent access, and there's been some conversations back and forth with the DNR about the wetland there. So I don't know that it's been resolved.
Right. I think they're willing to give them temporary access, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure. We've been trading voicemails. But so yes, sand is available, would be in the event this is occurring, and the Public Works yard, sandbags, loudspeakers for volunteers if it comes to it. But I think that might be it. Councilmember Dorschner.
So is it just the sand and the sandbags, or do we have other equipment to help fill the sandbags, or is it
Shovels.
hands and shovels?
Shovels?
Just hands and shovels. I know they have
There-
the upside down crown.
There are units that we could rent to assist with something like that, but if the need came to that point. But right now, just shovels. bags.
Help yourself. I'm not familiar with what all was done.
Yep, yep. Just another quick update to a couple of the culverts that we just briefly discussed. We found that they were partially plugged, so we actually went through and jetted those higher concerned areas, cleaned them out with
Right.
debris and grass and leaves. Is majority of the reason why they were plugging and then
That was the
freezing up.
50th Street one? Is that
50th
what it
Street was
plugged
one
up?
of them, yep. One on Manning. Second, so hopefully they'll flow a lot better this spring. Tonight's MAC meeting, we also decided that we were gonna have a considerable amount of savings on the utility vehicle. So in using the CIP money, we're looking at a hot water commercial jetter. It's a little trailer unit, somewhere around $8,000. And that's something we do not have right now. And they are hard to find when, in the spring, when culverts and such are froze. So in using some of that savings, we're just discussing if that's something we want to move forward with. It's an $8,000 unit. It's hot water, high pressure. It'll break open on ice culverts or something, so.
Sure.
That's, in my eyes, that's a good use of
Yeah.
that savings, so.
Okay, thank you. Councilman McGinn?
How many culverts are like that in Lake Elmo? I mean, is there an estimate of,
How many froze or are
or
plugged?
how many that we could use that for? I mean, do we have that
Oh.
many culverts through the city that it's,
Well, I mean, we already did a
cost-effective?
storm sewer already here last week that was froze solid over by DeMontreville. It's nothing that we'll have to jet on an average year, 6 to 10
okay,
storm sewer culverts. You know, really depends on how quick things melt and then how, if they refreeze that night again and
yeah.
such. So it's something we will definitely use. Right now, all we have is just cold water and doesn't nearly melt fast enough, so.
Right. Go ahead. I know it's in your, the National Weather Service, what are they predicting, a what, more moisture, more snow, more rain?
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, I think that they are. Mr. Hanson, I might ask for you to weigh in. What's the National Weather Service predicting for the spring here? What are you and the National Weather Service
Yeah,
predicting for
who
the spring?
knows?
It's anybody's guess. There was a meeting at Washington County last week that the National Weather Service presented some information. And I guess the silver lining was that the frost is not as deep or as thick as it was last year. But then again, the soils are much more saturated. And so what that means is the snow doesn't have much to infiltrate, and it will still run off because the soils are so saturated.
Okay.
Looking at the water content today compared to the water content a year ago today, it's about double of the snowpack today. But last year we did receive a lot of snow in late February and March.
And again, if somebody was concerned or thought they might be in this position, they can, from what we know, they can still buy an flood insurance. But the important thing, you said they have to do it 30 days before an event.
Yeah, 30 days before it will go into effect, so people will want to be thinking ahead of time, and then they should talk with their agent specifically about what that will cover, so.
All right. Anything further on this item? Okay. We'll go with item, 2, Cable Commission updates. I mentioned the. Yeah, I was actually, if you'd like to weigh in, sure. Yeah, if you'd like to take a few moments and give us your feedback. Back up a little bit on the flooding. I know
Okay.
you're in the audience. so-
All right, my name is Len Duran, and I live on 9784 57th Street North on the south end of Clawwooder Pond. And I guess a couple months ago, we started to understand that we really didn't know what government bodies did what in relationship to what the anticipated flooding could be this winter. So I made a few calls, and we started talking about certain things. And basically, what we would like to know, we know we have to do the sandbagging, and we'll go ahead and do that. But I don't know if you gentlemen over here mentioned about the loading sandbags. If we were to sandbag, what we're talking about, which is basically about 84 feet, and did it to go 3 or 4 feet high, if in fact it went that high, is we're looking at 2,400 sandbags. So that's not going to be ordinary, it's not going to be easy, it's going to have to be done though. So what we came here tonight was to kind of try to find out what government bodies are working with what government bodies, because in the information that you sent us, it said that you were going to have sand and sandbags, but that was for public use, not private use. So what we are asking is, why can you people put together a program to kind of tell the people that are potentially going to be involved in this flooding situation where you go to get sand? Do we go to Buberls? Do we go here? Or we go there? Or whatever it is. This is new for us also. Mm-hmm. I talked to your engineer briefly, and he said, well, that's not really anything I know anything about. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, what if you did learn about it? You know, so you could help us out, because we're talking about, it's kind of amazing how many potential places could be flooded in Lake Elmo, and we believe that this is the place to start. We have a situation on Clawwater Pond that we're going to need your help to deal with MnDOT, because the runoff on Highway 36 with the high water table here is excessive. You got a video from Doug Lohman showing you how much water is coming off of that. Well, if that continues to do it, there's going to be serious flooding above and beyond what the national recording is as far as the 100-year floodplain. So what we're primarily interested in right now is, where is Lake Elmo in this flow of information that the people that potentially are going to be here are going to need, because we're doing it on our own. Are we right or are we wrong? My wife and I disagree on where we would put the berm. So who's right, who's wrong? Well, we're going to figure that out at that particular time. Where are you going to get sandbags? That pile of sand over there at the shop there is probably maybe enough for 300 bags, 400 bags maybe, if it's that much.
Right.
So that ain't going to help very many people, because it would basically be 30 bags per 10 feet that you would need. No, wait a second, it's more than that. It's a great number.
We get your point, yeah.
So, but at any rate, I wanted to bring that to your attention, because you're our closest body of government here, and we're going to have to rely on you to help it. We'll get the sandbagging done if that needs to be done. But come spring,
Right.
the moisture content in the ground, the flooding is not over. Every 6 inches of rain, or 3 inches of rain produces 6.5 inches of water on our pond.
Right.
So it ain't going to go away very quickly, and I would imagine, would I be saying maybe 8 to 10 years, unless we have a serious drought?
So I'll take a stab at responding. Maybe we weren't clear. I'm glad for the chance to re-clarify at least my position. We'll find out if the council's. You shouldn't. Part of the message I heard here was that we're going to have sand up there. We're going to have bags up there. Hopefully there'll be volunteers, an assortment of them, to keep up with, if there's a need for that, for those bags. I don't think we have any intention, or I don't think we can keep up with a berm as you describe. I mean, frankly, the little bit that I know, and not knowing the exact situation, you might want to consider getting it delivered out there now, a load or several of them. Well, you call up a gravel pit.
Yeah, Colbert Burwell.
Yeah, Hagberg's, Burball, I mean, there's many of them, and get it loaded. Now, you know, your emails to me caused me to look at some internet stuff and find out sandbagging, berm walls and all that stuff. There's ways, and there's sources out there for you. I know you've gone to the Valley Branch Watershed. I know the Valley Branch Watershed has got, not just yourself, but any numbers of individuals up there with the similar concern, and they're in some ways the same as us, that they, don't have the capacity, the funding, or I think even the right to do individual private property, under their charter. I asked about the homes that was purchased up in Grant, and that's a 10-year effort. A few of them were purchased 10-year effort. Extreme example. I just don't think that if there's a message to be had here, and this is helpful, I think, for you and maybe any other, this is a private property issue. The extent of our help is gonna be sand and sandbags up there and trying to rally the volunteers, and I'm sure you'd see some of us up there too, perhaps, but it's, especially as you've described it, you should really put some thought into how you're going to address it. And that might be certainly with a private contractor, because of all the other, help you, we gotta help them, that's only fair and it's only right, and you can see where that wouldn't stop, so.
Do we need a permit?
I,
Well, just for sandbagging?
I certainly wouldn't think so, but.
Not if it's
I
a
mean,
temporary sandbagging permit, that
Yeah.
berm that's gonna come down, yeah.
Yeah,
If you're protecting your home, I think you
yeah,
will deal with that later.
it gets into how much dirt you're moving.
Later, do we need a permit? I think depending upon the height, probably, and we'd wanna make sure you're not diverting it to a neighbor and causing problems for them, so.
No, yeah, I think the Valley Branch, well, the city has a certain amount of dirt that you're bringing in, 6,000, how much it ever is, you can certainly look it up and see how much you'd be moving, maybe the Valley Branch would weigh in on that, depending on the scope of a project like that. But back to the MnDOT, the Valley Branch watershed position is that there's been no changes there that is causing you added burden, it's just, there has been the Hilton interchange, but there's been no causation, so to speak, that's added to the moisture that you're seeing. It's just the wetness, the spring itself. And I'm certainly, as we have a representative here, can weigh in on it. But, this isn't, that surface runoff isn't really in our wheelhouse. I mean, it's not, we have a Valley Branch watershed district that addresses that. So, all right.
So the communications from the standpoint of flooding is not with Lake Elmo, it is with the Valley watershed.
Well, but I must say, I don't want to suggest that there's, that there's a lot of hope there, that you should count on them, because their resources are limited as well. And I think that they'd have a very similar position as we, that it's a private property issue. And to the degree that we can help, we will, but there's you're not going to find them on your yard. You're not going to find them designing berms. You're not going to be seeing that. It's your issue. And it's important that you know that, so you're not looking around in February and March and April. Where are they? So that's clear, I hope, right? Council, want to weigh in? Anything different? Okay. Now we'll go to Cable Commission updates.
So Mayor and Council, as some of you might remember, we've passed a number of extensions as the Cable Commission continues to negotiate a renewal of the franchise agreement with Comcast. Last fall, they went out for a more formal process of a request for proposal from Comcast. They've gotten that response back, and they are recommending that we preliminarily deny it. I sent out a bunch of information to you. To be completely honest, it's incredibly technical and I can't follow it, and I've asked them for an easy summary, and I may or may not have gotten that, just this afternoon and haven't had time to look at it. So I wanted to at least take this work session to have a conversation with you folks in anticipation of taking action. I do feel comfortable recommending that at a minimum next meeting we extend the franchise for 1 month to give us some more time to look at it. And my understanding then is we would need to make a decision on the preliminary denial by the March 4th meeting. So we have a little bit more time for that one. But right now our franchise is set to expire the end of February. I know the mayor's had a lot of conversations with folks on this as well, and may have some more details to add, but it's a complicated issue. There's been a number of cities that have pulled out of, a couple of cities that have pulled out of our joint powers agreement over the years. Maplewood a few years ago, and Vadnais Heights last year. Just with the way the cable business is changing, people are doing a lot via internet, and these cable franchise fees are really for cable subscribers, are garnered from cable subscribers and then used to do things such as recording this meeting that is, of value to people who are watching it on the internet right now, not cable subscribers. So there's a lot of change going on in the industry as well. And so I think that's why we've seen some of our neighboring cities pull out. On the other hand, you know, we do get the services of having our meetings broadcast and available to folks, as well as some of our community events, and we're in no position to take that over in-house right now. But really briefly, that's kind of the issue, I guess, as I see it. And like I say, there's a lot of details in there, and whether or not we do the denial and go through a formal process with more legal fees, or we continue to try to negotiate. But my understanding is that hasn't gotten very far in the last 3 or 4 years that they've been doing it. So I kind of open it for questions unless the mayor or Jake has anything to add.
I'll only add this, it is very complicated, at least to me, and technical aspects of it, INET, and how many of our facilities are supplied with INET, and how many they will be, and why that's a big issue, just things like that, you know. But some time ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, we you know, I was concerned about the PEG fee. The PEG fee, as you've seen in the report, is, and you know, it's I think it's close to $6, $5.50, and you saw in the other communities, it's $2. And the PEG fee is what comes from the customer, or the Comcast customer, and goes to pay the commission's
Capital expenses.
But it seems, you know, there's an argument that, is it really going to that? Is it going to pay other things? And I, you know, I don't know. It's one of those things where I don't think there'll be a great answer for it, but there'll be just degrees of wrong positions, you know. And I think on our vote that's coming up to extend it to March, I think it's a no-brainer. We'll have to do that. It'll be interesting to see what other cities do. I think other cities are having a couple of votes on it tonight. I'm sure they'll probably go to the March thing. Yeah, but Maplewood's out. You know, I think they're at $1.50 or $2 a PEG fees. You know, it occurred to me it was similar. You know, so if it's let's just call it $6. It's not quite $6, but that's you know, that's more than the stormwater fee that everybody gets upset about. You know, and Comcast's numbers are, you know, statistically they're going down from what I can see, and how long will this business model last? And it seems like the Cable Commission is aggressive in seeking services that may or may not be practical, you know. So, you know, like I say, I don't know. Right now, when we get probably next council meeting, we'll have a vote to go to March as they fight it out. But one of the things is how much money they're going to spend on the legal aspects of the commission. So, anyway, I'd encourage you to maybe look at some of their meetings and go through this. And before I forget, I was, well, I'll let you guys, do you have any feedback or comments, questions, whatever? I'm not sure I can answer them. Jake probably can.
I guess, what's Maplewood going to do? Are they gonna?
They're out.
They're out, but
yep.
what's their solution?
They do
Do
it
we know?
in-house, and they're a lot bigger, and they were,
Okay,
you
so
know,
they're
their
gonna-
argument was they were carrying the lion's share of it, and they weren't seeing the value and their PEG fee and such, but
So if Maplewood did something like that, is there an opportunity for us to contract through them or through somebody else outside of the cable?
there might be an opportunity out someone else, not Maplewood.
Yeah,
They're
but I mean,
their own
yeah,
person.
somebody
There's
else that
another-
might be doing it in-house?
You know, hopefully this agreement, I would say this, that, you know, I don't know how it'll go, but if the agreement was to be succinct and it looks, this battle, this administrative hearing, if that's the word the commission's gonna go versus Comcast, if it plays out nicely and things work out and all the cities are still on board, then fine, and maybe we can kind of, I'm hoping that the commission could maybe see things as I do, and I don't profess to have a full confidence in it, perhaps they're missing something, but maybe lessen the PEG fees, maybe lessen some of the other stuff that goes into these things that cost the citizens money. And to that end, I was hoping that we could appoint somebody from this council to serve on this commission. And our commission member has been, you know, done a great job for close to 3 decades now, 28 years, I think it is. And this is not any statement upon her service. She should be thanked and whatnot for everything she's done, but I think some new blood might be an advantage, and somebody that understands the technical aspects of it and gets into the minutia not having that person, I still thought we should put Bloyer up on as our cable representative, if he's so inclined, and if council would consider that. Not something we need to do tonight, obviously, but something we'd consider. Because I also think as it goes forward, it's becoming very, it might be significant, you know, I mean, this is, who knows what Comcast, as a, you know, how long it'll be running cable, and how much the, you know, they're talking about perhaps buying a building, they're talking about upgrading their mobile truck for $1 million, you know, so it's a lot of money, and I think we should just have somebody that's maybe closer to this table at these meetings, so. If there's no objection to that, maybe we could put that up on the next agenda then, along with the thing. What, you haven't weighed in, would you like to?
Me?
Yeah.
I just appreciate your
Confidence?
your confidence in my technical abilities to.
You are the guy for that. Well,
So you're not gonna be allowed to just forward the emails to staff this time.
'Cause I'll have to-
I don't find it quite as funny, but,
the staff thing?
yeah.
Would you,
Yeah.
we can put you on if you'd like to do it.
No, I think I'm going down for this part, thanks.
Well, maybe I should say, I certainly am not a technical person, so anybody else who has that skill, step forward.
I'd love to do it.
Okay, great. All right.
Call my son, and he's the techie, but.
Okay, well, anything further on this then? Just kind of, we'll see what happens as it goes. All right. The next item is update on review of 180 acres. This is the land that we worked out an agreement with 3M. We have 180 acres up nearby the Public Works Department. Christina?
Yeah, Mayor, I'm gonna pull up some of the maps here maybe so everyone can see. Want to make it smaller. So, Mayor and Council, as you might remember, you'd approved a grant application to the Washington County Community Development Authority last December, where they were gonna provide some matching funds for us to do a kind of a high-level master plan of the area out at the 180 acres. And the intention was to look at it to see if the city invested in the public infrastructure, the water, the sewer, the roads, the stormwater, et cetera, if that would make sense to do those investments and then try and sell the land as shovel-ready. So that's how this started, just for to jog your memory. And we're working with Focus and HKGI, a planning consultant group, to put together this information. And they've put together 3 concepts so far. And I don't want anybody to get alarmed about anything they see up there, but what I tried to do was take all the feedback that I thought I'd heard from all of you and myself as at previous work sessions about possible uses of the land out there. So there's the purple shaded color there is kind of a business park, industrial type warehousing ideas, some commercial. We've got public works, possibly a city hall. Again, I know we're still going through that process to evaluate, but we wanted to see how things would fit together. And then, as folks may remember, when I first approached 3M about this land, it was to get land to replace the ball fields at Tartan Park, so you'll see some ball fields out there. The Parks Commission has also had a dog park in their capital improvement plan for a couple of years now, so we threw that out there as well. And then there's a couple concepts that have some housing out there as well, just in the areas really where it's probably could be a good buffer. Depending on what we hear from folks. And these stormwater ponds are all really high-level kind of concepts, too. So we know there's a drainage swale, for example, that comes in through here. We know there's some lowland, wetland areas over here, so they've kind of just plugged them in. So tonight I want to get some feedback from you on these 3 concepts and see if there's certain aspects of them that you prefer, or things that you don't want to see out there, so that we can continue to narrow the scope as we move forward on this. Here's one that just has basically all business park warehousing type uses with the exception of a city hall expansion and putting the ball fields down here. And then the third one, again, maybe the ball fields would be better up here as a buffer to some of those residential neighborhoods and some low-density housing down here. By low-density, though, it is planned to be, or would be likely, low-density sewered. We hope to get sewer brought up from this lift station here on the Oakdale side. We've reached out to them a number of times and hope that they'll have some conversations about whether or not they'll be interested in working with us to bring sewer to this area, because we don't have it readily available now. We're hopeful, given our past experiences in working with the city of Oakdale for both water and sewer along our western edge, that we'll be able to work something out. So that's an update kind of on that project. Now, while this has been simultaneously going on, you'll also see in your packet we've been approached by a developer called North Point. And they have, I won't go through their history here, but we had shared with them through a real estate broker about this land. And initially, when we were doing the grant, we didn't know how detailed we'd get on the north side, so we had told them, well, certainly on the south side, we'd look for I'm trying to turn that around, that doesn't work very well. For some business or commercial park type space. So they provided two different options, and they're very similar, ironically. We literally exchanged our plans with theirs at the same meeting, and we ended up very similar on the south side as far as what was proposed there. So they are also interested to know if this is a use that the city council would be in favor of. As I had mentioned in the staff report, in the 2040 comp plan, it is guided as rural area development, so low density, non-sewered development is what we had planned for it. But my takeaway from our previous meetings, and that's really what I want to confirm with you all tonight, is that we're actually open to some higher uses if we can get sewer from Oakdale. So they are working on providing us with their thoughts on the north side as well. Sorry, it's twisted. I don't know how to flip it around in this.
Right next to the plus sign. The
That's
circle
what I did,
there.
and then it did that.
You should, there.
Oh, there we
it
go.
goes.
Okay.
There.
There, and then I'll plus it. So they're also interested to know if this is something that the city council would be open to. There, again, be a lot more steps to go, a comp plan amendment, getting the sewer from Oakdale, and then also a recommendation from the planning commission about selling the land to them or not. So with that, I will maybe answer questions and take feedback.
Christine, I have a question. There's a comment in here that it says, as we've been working through this process, we've been approached by a number of interested parties, but only one firm is being represented. Why is that?
So we've had people approach us about farming it. So in fact, just yesterday I got a call about leasing it again. And then the other folks were more, are you going to have some buildings out there kind of stuff is what we had heard. And so this is somebody who's going to be willing to come in and take the whole site and build their actually spec buildings that would go. And so nobody else has given us drawings or plans. And so that's kind of why we've moved forward with this.
I'll just put in my 2 cents, I guess. The south side, that's just fine with me. I don't have any issues with that. I guess if transformed over the, last couple months of having this, my personal, if I was in charge, vision for the north side would be more public purpose, city hall up there. I know there won't be a fire department, but city hall, we have our parks that we have to deal with, maybe some lower density residential, and, I don't know, school, who knows what else could go up there, something like that.
The only concern I had, Christina, when some of the first displays there, I personally would like to see, or how would we have if we choose to put City Hall out there, I think by having the entrance off of Ideal, further north of Public Works, I think visually it hides our City Hall and it makes it a little bit more difficult for people. I would like to see it, somehow, whether we do that with signage or whatever, but like to have it maybe access off of 5 Stillwater.
I'm smiling because that's the most expensive part of the property that the commercial developers are gonna want for those very same reasons. And so, again, it's good to hear kind of what are our goals and how are we ranking them, so.
I'm just city
Yeah.
access, I mean, if we're inviting, it just seems to me, from visually, it seems that we're hidden.
And that's what I'm saying, that was purposefully done, because if we're trying to get the most bang for our buck, so to speak, those lots that are gonna be more visible are gonna be much more appealing to the private sector, so, but, yeah, and again, these are more like blocks to see how they could fit, everything could move around, so, but that's good feedback that I'll take. I mean, let me just, how do people feel about the fact of going from non-sewered, low-density residential to business park warehousing idea? Because I totally get that that's a big change, and if there's not going to be 4 of you on board for that, then we really need to start all over. So if folks could think about that.
I'd be uncomfortable on the north side.
Yeah, so let's talk about the north side. You're talking mostly about the people that are, contiguous to the property. And, the low density, industrial might be okay, it might be viewed better if that road going into that development to the east.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not going through their neighborhood, because that road is stubbed now with the expectation that there would be homes there.
Which draft are you looking at? That
This one here,
Top one, that one there, see that road going to it?
Yep, got it.
right here.
I mean, yeah, it's residential, which is closer to what they expected, but if it was industrial, it might not have to have the road going through it. I guess there definitely, maybe, none of it is, there could be some outreach going there and see how neighborhood would feel. On the north side, they'd be benefited by some growth or development there anyway, with their water problems, their historical water problems.
Yeah.
Runoff.
And remember how the land lays, so Wildflower Shores, which is down here, is much lower, so, from
How's the
that
water-
aspect,
What is it? Is that 138th, 39th?
yes.
How is the water, is it just the way the farmer back in the day sloped it?
I know it just sheds off the.
Yeah, it sheds off here, so as development would occur here, then we'd be
Collecting.
likely berming up and, bringing all that stormwater down here. It won't completely solve their problem, but it takes care of that shed that we heard about. If I could just share some other thoughts that I've shared through the process, while people might be more open to residential because it's like them, like the mayor said, they could have issues because we hear already in a number of neighborhoods, they don't want them coming through their neighborhood. I also worry that we have so many residential plots in the city right now, that this might mean we're holding on to this land longer. So again, I know there were some comments previously about let's get this back on the tax rolls as soon as possible. So that's why you'll see some that don't have that. And going back to the ULI meeting that we had in October, they talked a lot about that synergy of having residential and commercial and business kind of all together. And so since we've got the residential here, those 1,400 units that Oakdale's gonna put in is right up in this area too, so you'll be competing with that over here. So that's just something I could be wrong, but you all see all the development that's going on, so.
Christina, the wetland area, is that the, 2.5 acres you said is being held from Oakdale and us, and there's some kind of process? You said of the 180, there's a 2.5 acre area?
Don't remember saying that, so
No,
that's.
there was
Yeah.
I think you're referring to, there was some kind of an assertion that maybe we were gonna be responsible for some stormwater holding.
Yeah, something
back in
over in that
agreement,
area.
A very old
We had
agreement
talked
that.
about
Oh, a very old agreement from like
Yeah.
the 80s or 90s.
That was.
We continue to bring that up, particularly as the Lennar development's going on up there, and it doesn't appear that there's a need for that from the Oakdale side.
Oh, okay, so then there's not gonna be any issue, okay.
No.
Is there any way to explore any other options to bring in sewer to the site that doesn't include dealing with Oakdale?
Sure. Well, I mean, we could have our engineer look at bringing it up Inwood and Stillwater Boulevard and up Ideal. again, that probably is a couple-year process away though then too. And maybe even the Oakdale one is, because we haven't heard back from them, but, if we wanted to have the sewer ourselves, that's something we could look at. I think we
Would we have the capacity?
we wouldn't be able, obviously, to tell these folks we're ready to go this summer and
No,
have
I
them start
understand.
building.
Would we have the
yeah.
capacity if we were to do that? I don't know. if
We
it's
would be
more of a jack-
rebuilding rebuilding, or not rebuilding, but building a force main all the way down from
understood.
Eagle Point Business Park up. So
So
it's not
soon
about
as-
capacity, it's a brand-new
Oh, understood. So
line.
we hit the interceptor or whatever that is right
Yep.
there, and so there's no capacity issues.
We haven't delved into it that
I
deep.
know, but that's.
Well,
we're
why
not
are you
res-
asking me then if you know?
Because what I'm saying is that there's no restrictions as we have with the pipe coming down like Elmo Avenue. 'Cause
Well,
we're-
given that there's no pipe, no. There's no
Understand, but what
pipe
I'm saying is there's no
restrictions.
restriction from there. We're hitting the interceptor directly.
Yes, we
Yeah,
would be building
okay.
out from the interceptor.
Okay.
Where's the interceptor? Where do you got it?
It's
at?
the one that we
Which
dump into now over in Oakdale. But it had been a Met Council one, and they turned it back, they turned it over to Oakdale all those years ago when Lake Elmo refused to grow, and maybe this would be an opportunity to get it back to Met Council if we're adding in more units.
Why would
So,
we want that? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know, so you don't,
That's my-
fi-
that's
so
my-
you don't have to be,
my gut reaction
you don't
and
have to
response.
rely on Oakdale. You instead ask the Met Council about building out. You can decide which one is,
No,
you
what I'm saying is
prefer.
the interceptor has been turned over to Oakdale,
Yes,
yet we're being compelled by the Met Council to hook to
Yes,
Oakdale.
yes.
But then we have to go through Oakdale to get
Yes,
permission
yeah.
to grow.
uh-huh.
Okay.
These are the problems that were created in the past that we deal with today.
Of the drawings that I see, I guess I like the industrial business park, light industrial, and it's south of the railroad for that area. And I like I'm not so sure I like the city hall up there. We've talked about that. But, you know, it's, I guess, I don't know, I struggle with where the ball field, if, you know, should go, if that's a good buffer for the neighbors that are up there. I imagine it would be. And,
And I don't mean to focus on them. There's obviously some neighbors down here as well.
Can I,
where are the neighbors? Yeah, you say on
Well,
the
here
south?
along Stillwater Boulevard, and
Yep.
then, you know, there's, again, if we're gonna be friendly with Oakdale, they've got a lot of neighbors here,
Well,
so.
that is the thing, yeah, well, how Oakdale would view it, if it's compatible, if it's something that would work for them, not
Right.
compete and all that. So it's all kind of, there's really no other way to bring this forward except to do what we're doing, and nothing hard pressed rules or ideas here. Go ahead.
believe the Parks Commission Chair is shaking his head. Can he come on down?
Have 2 minutes?
6.
I don't need 6. Barry Weeks, Lake Elmo Parks Commission. I like the idea of the baseball field somewhere there, but I would really caution against putting them right backed up to houses. The lights are on extremely tall poles in a baseball field. And in the downtown area, the Lions Park and VFW lights seem to stay on till about 10:30 at night in the summer, and we get a lot of residents complaining about that. So I can see complaints coming already on there unless we can move those fields away from the home somehow. The newer lights are good in that I believe they're LED, they're really focused and they tend to shine down, but still you get light going out into an adjoining neighborhood, and I don't want to have people complaining from day one that we put it in the wrong place when there was alternative sites available. Thank you.
Where do you
Appreciate that,
suggest?
thank you. I think that's,
And we agree, I would agree with everything he said, and we talked about that, but then, you know, what are the lesser of the evils? Do you want an open field that has lights sometimes by you? Do you want a warehouse that has trucks backing up, or do you want a whole residential development? You know, so, appreciate what he says and totally agree, but then as we try and sort this out, what do you put right here then?
yeah, I mean, you're talking 50,000 square foot building, 34 foot high, it would be an alternative.
Right,
If it's light industrial,
yep.
so.
And you're
Well, it
gonna
would-
have lighting there all night, probably.
And trucks. Well, you could move those. First, I would just say that I agree with Councilmember Blair that I think there should be more city public area, and south should be more industrial, if I was gonna pick. I think we need to get 4 ball fields, not 3. And if we, in that road there, if we have that more straight, horizontal.
What
Maybe a
road?
good solution is to put the ball fields adjacent to the public utilities.
Down here, by Public Works, you mean? When you say public
Public
utilities?
Works.
City Hall site.
Yeah, the city hall site.
Mm-hmm.
Then the neighbors to the west, it's just commercial, I think, will be over there.
Some commercial.
I'm
up
sorry,
in
where would you
Mobile.
put the ball fields? Down here?
Where the
Move 'em down.
public,
Sharpie. I'm not kidding.
Right here.
right where the,
Straight
yeah,
in, instead of curving.
Don't have
Oh,
Okay.
that's saying the road, instead of dropping
Yeah.
down, should go due east.
Just gonna put the ball fields there.
You could put City Hall on the north side of the new
Yeah.
road.
Could put city hall in the northwest corner.
You know what we need? Is a section 16 committee. A work group is what I was looking for.
Well, as far as the use, I mean, do you, oh, go ahead, Dale, go ahead.
Well, the other thing that I was wondering, and you answered it, I just wonder if there's another way of doing it. Seemed odd to me to have all the stormwater that's split right down the middle of this property. And maybe that's just because of the topography.
Mm-hmm.
And if that has to be, that has to be, but it might be good buffer too, if we can get it to be a little narrower down the middle and then have it buffer around the edges of the residential.
Anything's possible. It's just a matter then of how much more work goes into getting it where it doesn't naturally go. So that's what we tried to follow first.
And is that the amount of information you wanted from us?
Well,
I mean, 'cause,
So,
this is the-
yeah, I mean, yeah.
is everybody comfortable with the business park warehousing model on the south side?
south side of the tracks there?
Yeah, well, south side of 14,
Okay.
so, or this whole area.
so I
Is
just,
anybody not? Because if, I heard that a couple times, so if that's the message I need to take back to the developer is hands off the north.
I'd like to just bring something forward if, I mean, I know that we're still kind of going back and forth. Does City Hall go out there, or does City Hall stay here? I had some concerns with, I know the space use study in that was that originally looking at like population of 8 to 10,000?
No, it was
What's
more
what
than
you
that. It was 18,000, I
Did they come
think.
Up to 18, okay. All right, so if you felt that this the north side of 14 there is more, has more visibility in that for commercial, whatever, what's the opportunity to have City Hall, if we were gonna look at that, is there a problem with it going to the south side of 14? And then having more city park use in that, as Dale was talking about on the north side?
So if we were to put City Hall on the south, it would probably go on this parcel, I think, because I think, again, this is the higher value along
Yeah.
14. We could maybe do a City Hall and a dog park. I think we looked at putting the ball fields there too, and all of that won't fit in this area.
Yes.
So, and then you could have more of a park up here. Again, you know,
Yeah.
I approach this from the idea of trying to get as much back on the tax roll and development and creating jobs. But if there's a desire for more parkland instead, you just pluck those boxes out and turn them green. So there's,
I'm just curious
yeah.
if we would be better off, if we're looking at that, would we be better off putting it on that lower valued land, if you would, and maybe you put the dog park down there or something, and then the use on the north side, which seems to be more valued, keeping that as, you know, where you're gonna put your parks, your ballparks and that type of thing on that, the north area where the public works and, or this future city hall. Does that, anybody?
Yeah, well, I think that the industrial park, business park, south of railroad tracks and south of 14, I think would make the most sense.
South of 14 and south of the railroad tracks?
Yeah, I see it.
Both parcels.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically this.
Right.
Yeah.
That whole thing, okay.
I think that,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the best. I mean, but just, okay, but then go up top. Okay, now that stuff up there, I think, I just think we're gonna have, I guess I'd like to have an idea on what, so we're not tripping over ourselves, what that area up there thinks of that change. I mean,
You want to ask them, you want to ask the neighbors up there what
somehow
they
get
prefer
some.
to see?
Yeah, as I see it now, I'm thinking the south side, fine, but up there, I'd like to get some idea. And not so, just to get a feel, I mean, there might be an advantage to not running the residential through, but, man, Christina, to your point on if that stuff stays, I would imagine it would, for a while. The residential, if it was residential, it would probably stay, Mark, for a while if it was residential estates, But it doesn't mean
Oh,
we
for
can't
sure.
sell it,
Nope.
Yeah, so.
So is there still any use? I mean, is there still anybody interested in looking at a city hall on that space?
Where?
Well, we got some
And-
numbers
Well,
coming.
in that
And,
area.
and I don't know that you need to make that decision
No,
tonight.
but I
That's what I
mean-
mean. I threw it in there. We've got our RFP out for those engineering architect services, and in the schedule for that, we would expect them to bring back those cost estimates of the two options, keeping everything at Brookfield or splitting out City Hall, by your second meeting in April, I think is when we had it planned. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't see splitting, I'm with you, the business park south of 14, I agree with that. I don't see splitting the public purposes up. I would keep them all together. Not necessarily what we see there, but
Yeah.
all together there. Maybe some commercials, you say down, light commercial down on the corner where it
Closer
would
to
make
the-
sense. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you mean by asking the neighbors. I mean, I can
Maybe
probably
just
guess
some-
what they're gonna say.
Well, here's the thing, you can spend
You might
50
not.
grand coming up with or whatever,
Yeah.
coming up with some design and, and then they're gonna come back in and they're gonna raise the roof and, they might, I don't know, maybe they won't, but until we get some idea,
I can't think of a lighter use, though, than a city hall, a park.
well, the city hall and the park isn't what I'm talking about.
Oh,
I'm talking
okay.
about the business.
Oh, you're
There's other
saying-
drawings where it's backed right up to their,
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
oh,
what I'm
I got
talking
what you're
about,
saying.
right?
Yeah.
And,
Well,
But then, we'd still have,
stuff to the
Significant
stuff to the
buffers.
east there, it drops way down, you're not gonna be able to hide anything there.
right?
But I don't know, I mean, maybe just go up there and talk to them about it.
maybe have a community meeting with the residents up in those areas? And just, I mean, they know something's gonna be there,
Well,
and maybe give them an opportunity to say, well, we'd rather have this over that. But does that then compel us to,
Yeah, well, what if the market says something different?
well, that's,
well, yeah, okay, well, I'm hearing you, but if a developer came in and said the market says that this could go here, we just don't bend to that all the time, So I don't know, I just think that we might be wasting a lot of energy if we don't get some feedback on them, from them. But I think it's stuff south of 14 and the railroad track, I think I'm all gas on getting that going.
Christina, is that road where you got the arrow going into
Wildflower
Wildflower?
Shores.
Is that would that be a road going into their, adding traffic into that area?
Yep.
What's-
Again,
what's-
just that idea that we don't want to have one way in and one way out on all of our neighborhoods, so.
I can see a bigger issue with them with that than I can with putting something else there. But what are do you know the dimensions of the roads in Wildflower
No.
there? As I remember, they're quite narrow.
Wildflower Shores?
Shores, that's what I
I
meant.
don't-
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
Wildflower too, but what? mean,
Well,
I just-
Wildflower for sure, but Wildflower Shores is a older
There's-
development, so
yeah,
I don't know
and
that
they're
it's
still
narrow.
pretty-
Anybody? No?
I think they're pretty. No, they're not
Anybody who
narrow.
drives
They're
those
like
roads
the
right
normal roads around the
they're pretty
Tri-Lakes
big.
area.
Are they?
Okay.
You're not gonna have anyone going into their development because you can only make, what is that? Is that a right only out of there?
No,
It's a full
Can you go
access.
across?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go across.
I still don't see anyone going in there, weaving their way around there. I can see them coming out and getting to the stoplight.
I see
More.
what you're saying, yeah.
But 5 isn't that bad, except for, I suppose, in the morning.
And this is all subject to Oakdale, so if you find out, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe business park down there, depends if they view it compatible. And with their stuff, they're going across the street, the residential, maybe they like a park up there, to supplement that development for use. As far as the city hall and whatnot, are we okay enough to think that south of 14 wouldn't be intermixed with public park or otherwise? I didn't know where you were going, Lisa. Are you hungry?
Oh, no, I was just wondering if people, I mean, Dale had mentioned that land where the one where you've got City Hall north of Public Works there might be more conducive to the ball fields and that, to keep them away from the housing and that other park area up there. I was just trying to figure out, okay, where would you relocate the city hall? So that's the only thing I was thinking of, is if it was on the south side, you'd still have visibility off of 14 or Stillwater. But, I mean, I don't have a problem with keeping it all industrial there, but then you'd be faced with using a more expensive, if we will, piece of land if you were going to move that city hall to put parks in there. So that's my question, is where would we put that in this piece?
Where would we put what?
Which
I'm
one's the
sorry.
City
most
hall.
expensive
If we were
piece
gonna
of
move city hall and put ballparks in that one area, then where would you?
Oh, I mean, you could put City Hall anywhere, really. I mean, again, it depends on how are you prioritizing things? There's gonna be a trade-off for every decision, so there's not again, if it's more important to you that City Hall be very visible, then you give up the high visibility areas. Maybe City Hall is the perfect thing to be back here as a buffer.
Right.
To tell you the truth, because how often do you see lights? And maybe once or twice a week, you've got a few cars coming in at for a big meeting.
Yeah, I mean, and they've already, the worst possible corner has already been taken up. I mean, I don't think we need to do that anymore with
Right.
public buildings. We can stick them in the back there. Like you said, it's the perfect buffer for that neighborhood there. And you can't, even if you were to move it down south of the railroad tracks, there's no visibility to that.
No, I'm not
front
talking
parking.
south of railroad tracks.
You're
If
talking
you were
about on
gonna
the
put it.
corner? Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you
my
were.
I've never seen a city hall that wasn't fairly visible to the public and easy access, is what I'm talking about. I mean, if you look at.
You don't think this is easy access?
You are,
or
and you're
nothing?
hidden here, that's what,
Yeah.
my point. I'm just saying, if you drive through Maplewood or you drive through, they're usually on a main road. They have visibility to the public.
Sure.
If you're looking at a small community room or something like that, then you have those uses, that type of thing. If you're not worried about the visibility, then I guess you can put it anywhere.
I mean, in my mind, this is pretty visible right by Public Works, and you're right off a major county road. And that was my thought, I guess,
I think-
that it is visible there. It's not.
But if we're not gonna put it there, that's what I'm saying, if we're not gonna put it there because you're gonna put
Oh,
ball
because of the
fields.
ball fields?
Yeah, so then what's our option?
It's a stone throw away. It's not like,
What do you mean?
I mean, the distance from Public Works to where we're talking about is not that far.
Half mile.
I mean, what
I
if you just flipped these then, put the ball field down here and the city hall up here? It's still on a county road.
Run the access road straight in.
Well, then I still, then you'd have to have, and maybe you do that down by Public Works, is put a sign down there
Yeah.
identifying
you
where
would.
City Hall is. Yeah, you'd have to do, I might, you wouldn't have
Probably
to,
like
but
one
I
of the
would do
brown
that.
signs that's just out here that gets people off of the county road.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Mayor, could I pose a
Yes.
question?
Go ahead.
Is there any kind of a consensus from the council about having any residential of some type in this area? Yes or no? I wasn't necessarily hearing one way or another.
Is there a consensus on us allowing residential in that area?
Or someplace in the 180
Well,
acres.
using that one right there, is that a good spot for residential, the yellow there? I guess I'd like to talk to some people who are, well, we didn't draw this. I mean, I'm just thinking to drive through that area to get back to your homes. I don't know.
Well, and you have the same issue there if you're gonna be putting the ball fields as Barry talked about, if you're gonna put ball fields in there, and that yellow area that you're talking about right now on the top, as if that was residential, and you're putting ball fields right next to that, so you're still putting ball fields next to residential then.
Well, so what if we push the city hall up here, like we said?
Yep.
Ball fields down here.
And then
And this is
residential
the
over.
business park still, like I thought I had heard at least a couple of agreements on it. And it's, how do people feel about business park against there? The residential, I
What if
mean, go down where?
No, I'm sorry, go back where you were, it doesn't matter, go, right there, okay, so what if we put, to Ken, answer your question, I guess I don't know why I'm feeling a little weak-kneed right now, but, you know, if you left the residential estates or your residential on the top around there, had that road bisected, that road that Dale wanted to move, the road kind of bisects it, and then you could have all your other activities, uses down there. You know, leave that stuff residential up there.
I think you're trying to get an idea of what the uses are, not us draw on the map tonight, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm doing both, I guess,
know.
but on the periphery of on the north side of that, maybe just leave residential estates.
Yeah, I mean, I,
Bisect it, because otherwise, in the meantime, we could send out a letter to the HOA and 38th maybe.
I mean, I don't know what, I mean, I don't understand, it's,
I just
what's
feel
the letter
like
gonna
we
say?
need
Would
to
you
have
rather have
something.
residential next to you or an industrial building?
Me?
No, I'm right, I'm just saying, just in
No, I'm saying
general.
you send these things and hey, looking for some feedback.
Oh, absolutely.
Describe
yeah.
how we came about this land again.
Maybe it's something we could use our, what is it called? Our survey thing, poll call for, to get feedback and put them out there.
Yeah, but would they,
Before we get too.
It tells us
ahead
where
of our
people
skis
are,
here.
you know, voting from, I believe, as far as neighborhood, region or something, so.
Yeah,
But-
through Polko, we can verify where people are voting from, and that's done through, you know, voter information, all that, so we'd have geography-specific responses.
Okay,
And-
does it seem kind of wasteful if just we use that bisect, you know, light industrial and whatnot on the south side of that east to west road there that Dale wanted to move straight anyway?
Is it bad that we use a road to bisect it? No.
No, it's good. Residential, it's still the same use that was kind of,
I mean, at the end of the day,
Preordained.
if the road just comes up here instead of down here and you've still got buffers of stormwater and all that, I think this is very similar.
I do too.
And flipping these two, I mean, they're similar uses. I don't think that's
Yeah,
an
right,
issue.
I guess that one there works for me, with the exception of the city hall. Which is
okay, I don't
to
need
be
your vote on that.
determined, which is to be determined before we get too far
That's
ahead
not
of
to,
ourselves
that's not
on
to
that.
decide tonight, yeah.
And then the uses I described south, what do y'all, how about everybody else?
I'm not exactly 100% with what you're saying, but I think that gives.
You
good
see this,
idea.
you see the north side of you see
No,
the
no,
ball
I'm just-
fields in the
what I'm-
yellow?
what I'm
That's
saying
That
is-
could be residential,
What I'm saying is I agree with what you're saying, that this is closest to where I'm at
okay?
for staff's feedback.
And we get some, hopefully, feedback from Oakdale as well.
Sure.
Huh?
Yep.
What do you guys think? You wanna share it with the world?
Yeah, I would like to say, in response to Ken's question, yes, I'd still like the option for low residential in there for exactly the reason you said. When you're polling people, asking them, you give them a full list of options that we can do instead of the 3 we pick.
Okay,
Because I think to Councilmember Blair's point, if I were given a choice between residential and light industrial next door, yeah, so if that's actually an option, I would feel comfortable at this point keeping that in. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think-
and also, I'd like to make sure the dog park stays close to City Hall for Julie. That's it.
Well, that's it.
Somebody's been listening through all these meetings, yeah.
We're moving the dog park down here?
View of the dog park.
I guess that's it, then. That's decided.
All right, Dale, what do you
Whoa,
think?
whoa,
Did you-
whoa, we're gonna let non-Lake Elmo residents bring dogs?
Dale, what do you think?
Of course we will. Yeah, I'm with the mayor as far as the residential along the northern end and having that street divide. That, still am concerned that we have all that drain right, I don't know, if we can figure out how to engineer it to be more of a buffer around the edges. I
Okay,
don't know. I'm not in,
get that.
I don't know.
Did you want to weigh in, or you kind of have the objective or anything else? So,
No, I mean, in concept, everything's good. I'm 100% with south
So,
of 14 and here it's
Just to
tweaking.
maybe summarize, what I'm hearing is that you're all most favored towards this because it keeps in that option for residential, flipping City Hall and the ball fields maybe and tweaking the road and the stormwater, but okay then with the business park down south. Is that, tell me if I'm off, anybody? But at a high level, and again, things can still be moved,
Yeah.
that's kind of what you're at, and we can maybe share this then with the public and get some feedback
Yeah.
from them and see what we get from that.
My only concern is I'm not sure Polco will actually reach. I mean, if they're not looking for it, they're not gonna see it. I think to your point of sending a letter to the associations up there or whatever, and actually having some kind of meeting and just say, because then if they have questions, they're not gonna come to us in 6 months and say, you didn't tell me, and what do you mean Polco? You know, if they're not technical, if they're not looking at it, they may not respond.
We'll
to
tell
it.
them all when they call to complain about their flooding this spring.
Well,
We'll quiz them.
I mean, the bottom line is that we want to engage the public.
Yep.
Because they're most impacted, and that may change. I mean, who knows? They may say, hey, we want business park over this, and so then it may change that picture. But I don't have a problem with it. I do have some concern. I mean, that's a lot of wetland in there, at least the way it looks right now, so.
Well, but again, remember everything you know about developments that have happened in Lake
Yep.
Elmo. The stormwater is the biggest concern, and again, this is all landlocked. There's no river or outlet for it to go to, so to make sure you're preparing for that 100-year flood, you're gonna need to have some really big holding spaces, so. I know it looks that way, but I would be surprised if it's off much.
Is the green line to the north a trail?
It's
Oh, that's
the
it.
pipeline.
No, that's the pipeline.
Oh,
Yep, so there's the pipeline, and then there's the natural gas line, and then this right here
Wires.
is the high
Okay,
wires.
right there.
So, yeah, we tried to overlay some of that stuff too. The
Okay,
trail will be over here on Ideal Avenue, continuing from up north.
all right, well, I think you captured it
Okay.
fairly well there, Christina. Anything else, guys? Anything else? Okay. All right, thanks. So we'll do we talked about, okay, so items for future work session agenda. Go ahead, Councilmember Dorschner.
Yeah, I'd like to, I sent an email out, I just wanna make sure we're still thinking about doing an inventory of city-owned properties and current uses and what the plan is.
And did you get my email response to that, to see how many there were? Did you have priorities on which ones we're gonna look at of those 230 lots we own?
I had no idea there's 230, so I'd like to
Yeah.
have all of them, I guess.
Some of this work may have been done. Remember years ago you had asked for this, I thought.
What?
Sure I did.
I think some of this work has been done because some time ago, Councilman Bloor asked for it.
Well, it hasn't been done in the last 4 years, so it probably means we're starting all over. But we'll
Okay.
put it on our work list.
Okay. Anything else? Future agenda items? No? All right.
Nothing
No.
this time.
I'm good.
All right, then this meeting's adjourned.
Why am I calling for?
Aye. Go
Aye.
ahead, say what you gotta say.
I'm sorry, that time got to me and everything, I wasn't paying attention. I would like to throw it on the agenda that we take a look at, there's a property on the east side of Sanctuary, that there was an easement that has been vacated. I'd like to look at, what it would entail to unvacate that easement. Just, I mean, I don't want to take any action, but just have staff look into it, snoop around, talk to people, that kind of stuff. See what it is,
Best.
do what they do best.
To the east of
My brother
Sanctuary, vacated road.
You know what I'm talking about, Christina?
Of course I do.
Oh, you do, okay.
Okay, it's fine with me.
You're good,
All right.
thank you.
Now the meeting is, unless somebody's got anything else, we are definitely adjourned.